a forest of curved trees, and a hidden family heirloom? How do these items complete this picture? Welcome back to the Purely Fiction Society. I'm Knowles, your host, and tonight we travel to the far northwestern corner of Poland, near the town of Gryffindor, to meet Ray Matthews, an antiquities collector with a fascination for forgotten pieces of European history. Here, tucked away in a quiet corner of Central Europe, lies the Crooked Forest, a strange grove of around 100 pine trees, each bent sharply near the base at 90-degree angle, all curving uniformly towards the north. Planted around 1930, right before the outbreak of World War II, the forest has puzzled scientists, foresters, and travelers for decades. The local townspeople who had planted them evacuated the region during the conflict, taking the secret of the trees with them and leaving absolutely no records behind. Some blame heavy snow, others claim specialized tools were used to shape the timber. But what if the curves weren't meant for timber at all? What if a bizarre grove of bent pines was actually a living, growing map designed to protect a priceless piece of history from invading forces? Settle in. This is the Winged Hussar's Sabre. Several weeks earlier, while restoring a collection of regional border documents from the mid-1930s, a loose page was found stuffed inside an old ledger binding. It was a frantic handwritten letter from a Polish estate caretaker named Janusz, dated August 1939. Janusz wrote about hiding his employer's family heirloom, a rare 17th century winged hussar's ceremonial sabre, inlaid with silver and gold. When Germany preparing to invade Poland, Janusz feared that the approaching war would put the estate and everything inside it at risk. The sabre was not simply an expensive weapon. It represented a part of Poland's military history and had been preserved by the family for generations. If the estate was searched, Janusz believed the sabre would be seized and disappear along with countless other valuable pieces of Polish history. He needed somewhere to hide it where soldiers would have no reason to look. The Winged Hussars were the elite heavy cavalry of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, active from the 16th through the 18th centuries. They became famous for large wooden frames decorated with feathers that were attached to their armor or saddles, giving the cavalry an imposing appearance as they charged into battle. Historians still debate the exact purpose of the wings, although their psychological effect on enemies was certainly part of their reputation. These were elite soldiers, recruited largely from the Polish nobility, who were expected to provide their own armor, weapons, horses, and equipment. They fought as shock cavalry, charging enemy formations at speeds with enormous lances called koppies, before using their curved cavalry sabers, known as sables, in close combat. Their reputation became legendary. The Winged Hussars repeatedly defeated large enemy forces, but their most famous victory came at the Battle of Vienna in 1683, when they played a decisive role in one of the largest cavalry charges in history, helping break the Ottoman army threatening the city. By the 17th century, the Winged Hussars had become more than an elite military formation. They had become a symbol of Polish courage, military tradition, and national pride. A surviving saber connected to one of these warriors would therefore represent far more than any antique weapon. Janusz's letter didn't include coordinates, distances, or landmarks that could be easily intercepted by scouts. Instead, it contained a simple cryptic sentence: "The iron lies where the pines bow to the north." Following that single clue led Ray all the way to Poland to see the grove firsthand. Walking through the silent, eerie rows of curved trunks, it became clear that standard navigation tools were completely useless here. The trees had been planted as straight saplings, but Janus and his men used custom wooden frames to force the young trunks to grow in a uniform massive curve. Over 90 years later, the frames were long rotted away, but the living wood still held the shape of the riddle. The grove wasn't just a random patch of odd trees, it was a giant cipher grid. By treating each bent trunk as a directional marker and mapping the surviving pines on a grid sheet, the pattern finally emerged. The intersecting lines pointed directly towards a specific blank clearing, where 3 trees had died and fallen years ago. Kneeling in the damp moss of the clearing, the sharp scent of pine needles and wet earth filled the air. There was no high-tech equipment used, just a basic folding spade and a hand trowel bought at a hardware store in Grafino. 2 feet down on the dark Polish soil, the edge of the spade struck a heavy layer of flat local river stones. Clearing the dirt away by hand revealed a thick iron lockbox, heavily oxidized and caked in decades of hardened clay. The hinges were completely rusted shut, but with a firm wedge of the spade, the ancient lock snapped. And inside, wrapped in thick oil-soaked wool that had somehow kept the moisture at bay for nearly a century, was the sabre. Lifting it into the filtered grey afternoon light, the blade was dark but entirely free of deep rust, its edge still remarkably sharp. Running along the side of the blade were the faint tarnished silver inlays depicting the iconic wings of the Polish cavalry, accompanied by a faint Latin inscription, Amor Patriae Nostra Lex. Love of country is our law. It was beautiful, heavy, and completely real. For a moment, Ray considered what such a discovery could mean. A sabre of this age and quality could attract collectors, historians, and museums from across Europe. Yet the longer he looked at it, the more he understood why Janus had gone to such extraordinary lengths to hide it. Janus had not buried the sabre so that someone could eventually claim it as a valuable antique. He had hidden it because he believed that keeping it out of enemy hands was the only way to preserve it. And now Ray faced the same decision. If he reported the location, the secret of the crooked pines would no longer belong to Janus. The clearing would become a destination. The lockbox would be removed, and the sabre would begin another journey away from the place where it had survived the war and almost a century of changing borders and forgotten history. There was also something else Ray could not ignore: the untouched soil, the stones, the position of the box, and the way the sabre had been wrapped, all told part of the story. Once the lockbox was removed and the ground disturbed beyond recognition, that evidence would be lost forever. Ray took photographs of the discovery from every angle, careful to document exactly what he'd found. Then he wrapped the sabre again in the oil-soaked wool and returned it to the lockbox. He lowered the lid, settled the stones back into place, and covered the disturbed soil with moss and loose earth until there was little left to suggest that anyone had ever been there. Ray did not tell the museum and did not contact a collector, nor did he leave a marker or record the coordinates. The location would remain his secret, just as Janus had intended it to remain nearly 90 years earlier. Walking away from the clearing, Ray carried only his photographs and the knowledge of what lay beneath the crooked pines. The sabre itself remained exactly where it had been placed in 1939, protected by the strange living map that had concealed it through the war, occupation, and generations of silence. Perhaps one day another person would find Janus's letter and understand the meaning of its final clue. Perhaps they would walk beneath the curved pines and search the same clearing. But for now, though, the secret remained buried. And beneath the crooked forest of Grafino, wrapped in oil-soaked wool inside an iron box, the winged Hussar's sabre waited quietly in the darkness, exactly where Janus had hidden it. Some legends begin as stories, but every now and then, history leaves behind a clue that refuses to be ignored. Ray Matthews followed that strange curve of the crooked forest and uncovered a secret that had remained hidden beneath its roots for almost a century. Thank you for listening to tonight's tale from the Purely Fiction Society. If Ray's journey through the mysterious crooked forest captured your imagination tonight, please hit the like button and share your thoughts on the mystery of the Winged Hussar's sabre in the comments below. To ensure you never miss our next standalone adventure, make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on. Until next time, don't stop believing. Good night.